Holy cow, we have just given out over $4 million in cash advances so far at the show.
Welcome, guys, to another episode of the Courtside Investor podcast. I'm your host, the Card Boss, and today is the 12th of August, 2025. We are about 2 weeks removed from one of the biggest nationals event ever recorded. And by now, 2 weeks in, you guys are accustomed to tons and tons of content on the nationals. People are talking the same thing. The biggest nationals, the biggest turnout, the biggest cards, right? All the massive pickups, massive sales, and like all those bells and whistles and lots of good stuff to look at. But when I look at the nationals this year, I'm thinking about something else. And through the thumbnail to this video, as I pointed out, Alt has given out $5 million in cash advance. And this video is not about Alt. This video is about liquidity in the market or in the hobby, okay? And Alt is just one example because they heavily publicize putting on $5 million of cash advance during the show. So I want to take you guys on a dive through on what this all means. And I believe this is one of the hidden agendas, or not really agendas, the hidden outcomes from the nationals, which I think is going to steer this hobby into a very, very important part at this moment. Okay. Now, I'm downplaying this a bit because nothing's for certain. I can't predict the future, but I'm super optimistic. All right. So let's talk a bit about liquidity and what this all means. Okay. Now, on a flip side, we talk about negative liquidity. It means that traditionally alternative assets such as cards, stamps, coins, most of the time illiquid, means that they're not heavily traded. There's no open markets such as a stock exchange that you can heavily trade. Although these days, modern times, there are auction houses like eBay, all Finance Collect, Goldin, that helps with the liquidity process. And of course, there is card shows. And typically card shows, you can talk about local card shows, in fact, or maybe sometimes slightly bigger, such as the Dallas card show. Okay, you got a few thousand people coming into one location, doing buying and selling, doing some commerce. Okay, so that's when liquidity things happen. Money comes in, money goes out, people buy, people sell, right? All great. But when you have a massive chunk of liquidity, happening at the same time, in such an event such as nationals, all being one example, right? So $5 million is what they declared. But aside from all, there are plenty of other companies or other individuals that's been putting liquidity during the show, right? You have, let's say, for example, Cards HQ with their buys. I'm pretty sure there's hundreds of dealers on their big buys putting more money into the hobby at that particular event. So what that means, right? So it means that people had more money to spend. Now, if those guys took the money and then they gone home and they went to the casino or buy themselves a car after that, liquidity gets sucked out of the hobby. But most of the time, right, we're now in a very vibrant environment. People do have money to cover the major expenses in their lives, and these are all disposable income. So they're now cashing in on their cards, on their collectibles, and just having excess money to put back into the hobby to buy things, continue to buy things that they love, buy things that they enjoy. Could be bigger, could be smaller, but in this case, what it means is a very vibrant environment right now. Tons and tons of liquidity in the market, which is absolutely amazing. And that leads to one thing, right? The market's gonna grow. Okay, prices are gonna go up. But you're perhaps thinking, why would prices go up if there's liquidity? Obviously, when you think of times when money is short, that there is not much liquidity in the market, people don't want to spend money. And that's when certain, cards or certain asset prices will come down because there is just not enough people with money to pay those prices, and price keep coming down. On the reverse, when there's high liquidity, there is a lot of money in the market and there's demand for certain pieces. Now, it doesn't mean that every single card that you possibly own, the prices are all going to level up. Yes, certain cards, you talk about the big grills, the $1 million cards, yes, people have more money to come in for that, but those are on a different kind of level. If we're talking about the levels between $1,000 to $10,000, I think we're going to see a very big shift in terms of pricing, right? You may see gradually increasing 5, 7%, and it's going to start to really hop to 10, 15, 20, 30% in the relative short period of time. Right now, as we're speaking, 2 weeks after Nationals, you're going to see lots and lots of these cards coming into the market, like for Alt's case, right? 5 million cash advance resulted in $7 million of inventory, approximately about 4,000 cards, I believe, okay, heading into auction in the next 2 weeks. So in fact, it's already started for the next couple of weeks. For the next Collect as well, has been taking tons of consignments. Goldin has been taking tons of consignments during the Nationals, not to mention other major auction houses such as MC Sports, Hoodies as well, and they're all taking in consignments, and you see lots and lots of cards coming in. Obviously, these cards are going to get sold. People are going to pay for these cards. You know, there are lots of good stuff there, and lots of more money is going to flow back into the market, right? And rinse and repeat. So the Nationals has kind of set this up whereby people are willing to move cards that they own to reinvest back into the cards that they want, okay, which is pretty healthy environment in my opinion, something good to see. So from a perspective of an investor or a dealer, right, this is something that you want to get ready, to tackle the market from both the perspective as a buyer and as a seller, which means that you want to have cards that people is going to demand, people is going to chase, people are going to fight over, and that's going to give you an opportunity to yield the best return. At the same time, you're going to have opportunities to buy because people are definitely going to sell into the market, to create more cash. So you yourself need to be ready with your amount of cash. So there is going to be it's not going to be saying it's a buyer's market or a seller's market, but in this case, it's going to be both a buyer's and a seller's market. So if you're operating in this hobby as an investor, as a dealer, as a flipper, this is one of the times that you really need to brace yourselves, for that particular wave that's going to come in and out. It's going to hit really fast. It's going to hit really hard. Okay, I'm not sure how this is going to last, how long this is going to last. It could last. Football season is going to begin. NBA season is going to begin. It may last to, I would say, maybe around January, February or so. Right. So this is a very critical period in time in a hobby. Okay. The Nationals has given some signals that the hobby is in a good place. The hobby is going, in rapidly in a very fast growing pace. Okay. I don't want to make any assumptions what's going to happen in the next, 1 year or so. I'm just going to look forward for the next 6 months, and the next 6 months is going to be very, very important for this hobby. Certainly, I always preach about cash flows and liquidity ratio, which is a key component in this particular hobby. And if the liquidity is strong, right, in this market, definitely I see good things happening for the hobby. So my take on this, good times are coming ahead, and I hope you guys, to make full use of it. All right, that's all I want to say on this particular short video. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe for this channel. More videos coming up in the future. Cowboys out.